Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Kryptonian saying here, bringing you guys another review for Chainsaw Man. And chapter 101 is done in the books, and we got quite a bit to go over because we got a lot of interesting lore and world building in this chapter to look at. Jumping right into it, Fujimoto as a mangaka has definitely laid the groundwork for a nail biter of a chapter for chapter 102 because 101 ends on a cliffhanger where we see Asa Mitaka and Yuko running for their lives from the devil that they stumbled across, and we now know that given where the War Devil is currently in power, Asa Mitaka and the War Devil can't actually kill the Bat Devil that's chasing them. All signs clearly point to the fact that Yoshida is gonna make an appearance, given he was nowhere to be seen in this chapter and was stated to have, quote, skipped school. However, that's irrelevant right now because we've all got to be worrying about Yuko being offered up as the next character to die because the death flags continue to pile up for this character. Backing things up though, we start the chapter off with more of that wholesome bonding between Yuko and Asa Mitaka, where we see Yuko reveal to Mitaka that she's just like her in the sense that her parents were killed by devils, and she looks so excited when discussing the prospect of the two of them growing up to be devil hunters one day, and they can hunt devils together, they can get rich, make more money than somebody that goes to college, which as a former college graduate, that definitely stings. However, going as far as to say that they're gonna become Avengers one day, she's so wide-eyed and she's so brim-filled with excitement that you can't help but watching all this and realize she's probably gonna end up dead well before we get to the end of part 2 of Chainsaw Man, because Fujimoto showed us in part 1, he does not care about what characters we get attached to. Everyone is on the chopping block to die, and scenes like this where she's saying we're gonna become Avengers together, that's exactly why she's gonna die, and likely when she does die, it's gonna rip our hearts out. Looking past the fact that Yuko has more death flags in this chapter than an anime mom does, the information we get about the War Devil right after this is pretty interesting. So we learn that her name is Yoru, and we also learn more about her powers and how she can make her weapons stronger. So in terms of her power, Yoru basically says that when it comes to her powers, the guiltier you feel about turning someone into a weapon, the stronger that weapon will become, which means that the stronger that the bonds are, like say the bonds between a parent and a child, between friends, between lovers, if one of them were to be chosen to be a weapon, it would be pretty dangerous because of how strong that bond would be and the deep sense of regret you would feel. Now, I personally love this with the fact that in the last chapter, we got hints that the War Devil wasn't as bad as we thought, and there was a mention of how bullying was prominent amongst devils as well. And now we have the hint that the War Devil might have actually felt guilty about turning people into weapons in the past just due to how the rule of her power works. So that's really good. This is a really good use of writing to humanize Yoru more while also keeping her a dark character, because she flat out says in the chapter that Mitaka is getting too attached and she needs to go ahead and kill Yuko by taking her into one of the abandoned buildings and kill her so she can transform into a weapon, which that in and of itself is very dark, but this is Chainsaw Man. We all expect that. So she then goes a step further and says that the guilt and fear that Yoru sensed inside of Mitaka at the very suggestion that she does this will make the weapon stronger if she waits until the attachment she feels towards Yuko grows stronger and then kill her later on. So again, more death flags for Yuko have been planted. The next thing that we learn in this chapter is that the War Devil is actually limited in how she can take over Mitaka's body. So initially, I thought maybe this was a ticking clock situation where she could take over Mitaka's body anytime she wanted to. However, that's not the case. She can't take over Mitaka's body when she's scared, which is a nice touch of conflict because it makes fighting devils way more complicated while Mitaka is just cutting her teeth along the journey of fighting devils. Because at the end of the day, she's still a teenage girl. This is still something brand new to her. So you have to remember when she first made her contract with the War Devil, that was different because in that moment, she was so desperate to live that the desperation likely overshadowed any type of fear that she might have had, because Mitaka was just desperate to stay alive and she was filled with a lot of regrets in that moment, versus at the end of this chapter, she's flat out scared for her life and for Yuko's life when she's confronted with what looks like to be the respawn version of the Bat Devil. Now, the other thing this chapter does is that it manages to give us more about the world building by reminding us that even though Yoru is easily one of the most likable personalities that we've had amongst devils in Chainsaw Man, and even though the opening chapter for part 2 literally shows us that Chainsaw Man is viewed as a sort of a pop culture figure because he has his own collectible stickers, like stuff on his burgers. There are some in this world who still know that devils are nothing nice to deal with, and that speech that's made in the street reminds us of this. So the speaker does a good job of getting his point across that you're likely going to be killed by a devil in this world than anything else. He goes as far as to break it down in the numbers by saying like, hey, 20 people you pulled up here to hear me speak. So here's the hard truth. 5 of you are going to die of old age. 5 of you are going to die by illness. 1 of you is going to die by a traffic accident. 1 of you is going to die by homicide. And if you feel like that's just too dark and you want to kill yourself, congratulations. 1 of you is going to kill yourself. The rest of you guys are going to be eaten alive by devils. Devils are what you need to be afraid of because you'll die at the hands of a devil before you die peacefully in your sleep. Most of you guys think you're going to die in your sleep. That's not going to be the case. And it's then that Fujimoto gives us this absolutely gorgeous page spread where we see 4 people being killed by the Bat Devil in one fell swoop. And if we count Asa Mitaka and Yuko, there are now 6 humans there. And if you count Yoru, since she's inside of Mitaka, that makes 7 people. That's brilliant paneling and a brilliant sense of writing right there. The next thing that we see is a pretty gruesome panel where the Bat Devil is holding this really unlucky human by the waist and he's biting his arm off. In the subsequent panels that we get afterwards, we see other bodies on the ground around Mitaka and Yuko, with one guy with black hair curled up with blood oozing out his mouth. The guy who just got his arm bitten off is thrown to the ground with blood leaking out of his skull. The way that Fujimoto uses the next 2 panels to build up towards the reveal of Yoru not being able to beat the Bat Devil right now is very brilliant. So we see one panel where the sweat is beginning to fall down the face, and then we get another close-up to the droplets falling down the face of Mitaka. Then we get a different angle where we see Yoru tell Mitaka that they can't beat the Bat Devil currently, and then you get the close-up of Mitaka's eyes, and you realize that in this moment, Mitaka is about to piss herself, and the fear is beginning to set in, which brings us to another shot of where we see the other side of Mitaka and the back of the War Devil's head, as the War Devil informs her, I can't take over your body when you're scared. And it's then in that moment she tells her to begin to back away slowly and quietly, likely trying to keep the girl calm. However, Mitaka just takes off running like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And I love how the War Devil's like, dude, I just told you, do not run away. I love it because this just reinforces the fact that we're dealing with a child here who is scared out of her mind and she's being chased down by a devil. Like, this works so well because when we think back to Denji, yeah, there were times where Denji was afraid, but that man was ready to cut up some demons over the prospect of earning a kiss from Makima or the prospect of being able to touch boobs. Denji we saw push through his fear multiple times. But here with Mitaka, we see that she's flat out scared, and leaving this as the last panel for this chapter works to leave the impression that we have of her on our minds until the next chapter, because Fujimoto gives the opportunity to use time as a way to leave that as a lingering image that sits in your mind while you wait for the next chapter and you begin to let your own thoughts run wild. And then when she does get over this fear, it makes it feel more earned, all while making it clear that part 2 of Chainsaw Man isn't going to be exactly like how part 1 was, and I love it. So my question to you guys is, are you on Death Watch like me when it comes to Yuko? Let me know down in the comment section below. Everyone click here to watch my last Chainsaw Man chapter review, and click here to watch another anime video we have here on the channel.